overall objective was to bring peace and calm to public life, slowing down transport, allowing greater soft mobility for the public, and creating more welcoming public spaces. We focused on how people move around the city, making it easier and more pleasant for people to cross through the city, including our large boulevards, by foot and on bike, reserving those major boulevards for foot traffic and bicycles. Another major area of our policies was to combat advertising and excessive advertising. We wanted to reduce private advertising in municipal areas, and so we started this at the end of October 2014, where we really started to change people's view of public spaces. People saw public spaces where there were transport nodes as a good place to advertise. But we wanted to invest not so much in commerce, but in people, men, women, children. What do we mean when we say advertising? It's one kind of capturing people's imagination, but there are other ways. We could capture people's imagination with a circular economy, local shopping, community. Perhaps you could say that commerce, trade, retail has invaded our imaginations too much. Perhaps we could get rid of some of the billboards and replace them with actual public spaces, with trees. Then there are those who feel actually attacked by the sometimes patriarchal, aggressive messages in advertising. So there's a psychological space that we're fighting for. There's a whole spectrum of different reasons why we wage this battle to retake public spaces and to make it a space in which we can all live together with less conflict, but rather to see public space as a space for life, as new openings and new meetings taking place for all generations. Then there's the question of the islands of heat, so-called. There are new ways of protecting the climate here. We've fought against excessive speed as well, bringing down the average speed of cars. We have 6 years of experience in which we've seen that we've a 30% reduction of injuries due to accidents. So public space is still very vibrant, but less dangerous than it used to be. We have shown that we are able to transform the public space abruptly. Shutting down roads for cars is an abrupt change. It creates some conflict and controversy, but also a great deal of positive discussions and positive change. We focus on making it possible for new connections to be made, for people to do things together. There are two important dimensions here. One, urban agriculture. This is something that we see developing across the planet. We have our project, Agri Grenoble, where we make use of very small spaces with vegetables grown right in the center of the city. And then we have small areas where private persons develop plots of 5 square meters for growing vegetables. But these are not just spaces for vegetables, but for human life too, because people meet, they garden together, they start discussions. It's a new dimension of public life. And then another dimension over the past years is also something that we've been working a great deal on. When construction of new buildings take place, traditionally, they've been shut off to the public, boarded up and hidden behind tall walls. But now we're looking at a different approach where the municipality is delegating the tasks of gardener, architect, engineer locally, so that neighbors and local residents regain ownership over how the city is transformed. In the past, we in the councils had little capacity to engage in how large parts of the city were being rebuilt. Now we've had around 50 of these open construction spaces, so-called. We're the third most dense city in France, but also close to the Alps. And through this approach, we've been transforming people's attitude to public space and to city space. This has made our city, I think, very unique. I've been working in this industry for 8 years, and I've seen a huge number of discussions around the appearance of identical cities all across the city, all across the world. But here we have more originality, because we have more involvement by local residents. Next, I'd like to mention that we see these vibrant, open public spaces as a message to the population, to tell them that they are at home. This is an indirect way of fighting social economic inequality, keeping the cities fresh, where water is available, where shade is available in summer. And during the last few hot waves that we saw in June 2019, we published maps of where you could find shelter from the sun, shade and water in the city. And this has changed people's attitude to the city. People know that they can escape in their own city, also from air pollution and so forth. We've launched a number of different culture programs for public spaces through one of the largest street art festivals in Europe, covering many of our walls, but also with circus arts and theater on the streets of Grenoble. These different projects have allowed us to not just spread culture, but we've kept statistics. We've seen how many people have managed to engage in culture on the street at the end of each day. And so you can see streets as a venue for arts where people can engage in arts that they would not normally do so. And so thank you very much for this opportunity.
Well, thank you very much. And we loved the pictures also. They were really nice. Thank you for that. Now I would like to give the floor to Mayor Amir Kochavi, who is the mayor of Hod HaSharon from Israel. The floor is yours, sir.
So good morning, everybody. My name is Amir Kochavi. I'm 41 years old, the father of 2 girls. I was elected as a mayor of Hod HaSharon, the city of my youth, 3.5 years ago. When running for office, I originally thought it was for creating a better future for my 2 girls. But over the time and through COVID-19, more and more mayors are looking farther, planning and creating a better future for our children's grandchildren. It is an obligation all leaders should take as the power given to us is temporary, but the future should not be. I'm privileged to be here with fellow mayors from around the world to hear and learn from inspiring men and women who share the same passion as I do, a love to the city and a love to their people. Yesterday, I think it was the mayor of Larnaca who said a vibrant public space can only be where the community is vibrant. I think that really is the most distilled understanding of our role as mayors today. To create a place for the community, to visualize and realize dreams, communities' dreams, bring them together, bridging gaps, having our people involved in planning and decision-making. COVID-19 taught us we need to bring community life into our neighborhoods. In Hod HaSharon, we have this lovely park. I hope you can see it in the pictures. Lovely ecological park that plays a role in purifying water and bringing back flora and fauna long gone because of construction and development of the city. However, when COVID lockdown struck, people could not reach there as it is on the outskirts of the city. We quickly shifted municipal thinking to more local ventures inside neighborhoods. You can see we set up street libraries and local communal gardens, all set up by the municipality, but taken care by citizens who took charge and were given guidance by the municipality. We looked into activities that can be done alone or in small groups, activities that also benefit the rest of the community. We mapped out all citrus trees in the city, public and private ones of those who allowed us to, and we called on the public to come and collect fruit. For a whole week, people of all ages walked around the city collecting fruit from trees standing idly by. Then we created workshops led by school teachers who taught the citizens how to make the most of the fruit they collected. We fixed and reconstructed a big public agricultural farm in the middle of the city, so school children and preschool children and elderly population, and basically anyone who really wanted to, could enjoy and learn and utilize nature-based solutions. There are 4 seasonal rivers running through the city of Hod HaSharon. In prior days, people sought to control them and put them in pipes, making sure that when rain comes, it doesn't overflow. But today, we realize the power of nature, and we develop them with walkways and bicycle paths and trees that shade and bring back bees and birds. Public spaces, in planning transportation and public uses, and we make sure it is all based on age and gender equality, as it is not always easy because people don't actually believe you that you want them to participate. But it is a challenge worth taking for a better city for all. The name of this session was Vibrant Public Spaces, Green Cities and Nature-Based Solutions. In the last 24 hours, we've heard a lot from many mayors from around the world, and I could go on speaking about Hod HaSharon, I think, for ages. That's how we are as mayors. We like to talk about our people and our cities. But the next speaker is Mr. Igor Tereko, mayor of Kharkiv, Ukraine. Let it be said out loud and clear that no city can be vibrant nor green when under a vicious attack that threatens to drain the essence of life of the city and its people. As a mayor, I can only imagine the desperation and concern Mayor Telekov and other Ukrainian mayors have for their cities, their people, and for their own lives in the face of heinous Russian war crimes, as they themselves are targeted by the oppressor. A mayor's job never ends, even more so when facing the devil. I would like to send Mayor Tereko and other Ukrainian counterparts this forum's solidarity and the hope that together we will rebuild free Ukrainian cities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that you gave a speech that touched us all in the heart and is very important. So we are heading before schedule a little bit. Looking at the chair, I'm not sure if the mayor of Kharkiv is already available. So I'm looking at you.
But since we are ahead with the schedule, we can open if there are questions or comments on what was presented. I was also impressed by the presentation of both the speakers, how mayors think and work for their community, and in particular, the presentation from what is Mayor of Hod HaSharon?
Yeah, Hod HaSharon.
Yeah, Hod HaSharon, because it's what we are thinking, that we need to rethink how we plan our neighborhoods for the people and with the people. And this was an example exactly reacting to the impact of COVID-19. And I think that this has to be an example for all the mayors, how they should work with the community, for the community.
Okay. So we have then 7 minutes for a little bit questions, small comments, and then I will be very brutal because at 10:30 I will cut you off, whoever you are. Yes? So I look around. Is there someone who would like to deliver a comment? Not all at once, please. No? Then I suggest that we take a break for 5 minutes. Yeah? No?
Well, I would like to thank
Vilnius. I'm sorry. Very good.
Okay.
Please, Vilnius, take the floor.
My colleagues, as we have some minutes, we'll have, of course, discussion afterwards. But before hearing the mayor of Kharkiv, of course, it's very clear what kind of emotion we will have after the mayor speaks. But I think all the mayors who have spoken yesterday or today, they have expressed one single thought which unites us. As the mayor of Larnaca just also mentioned, there cannot be vibrant public spaces if there are no people and cities are destroyed by invasion. And again, it's an elephant in the room. We were asked somehow to refrain from politicizing this event, but how can we refrain being mayors and seeing the situation which is very straightforward and clear? So I would suggest that we would deliver a very short resolution, simply naming the situation and addressing this resolution both to the Secretariat when organizing other events and to Russian cities and to Russian government as well. It's not a secret that the Russian government is trying to use UNICEF for playing a kind of pan-European initiative. And I think that we mayors, when we gathered here, it's very clear that no mayor opposed this view. All of us, in one or other words, expressed exactly the same thought. So I think that's our duty to draw several sentences and to have this kind of resolution. I'm sure that all the mayors will approve it. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other mayors who would like to take the floor? If there is none, I would look at you. Yes.
Paula, you would like to speak? Okay, so thank you again for moderators to moderate this session, and thank you for the speakers. We close here session 2, Vibrant Public Spaces, Green Cities and Nature-Based Solutions. Thank you. You may stay on the podium. But before that, before passing to the third session, I'd like to give the floor to Ms. Igor Telekov, Mayor of Kharkiv, Ukraine. Mr. Mayor, the floor is yours.
Good morning, most respected participants, colleagues and fellow mayors. I'm very happy to hail you from the city of Kharkov in Ukraine. First, I would like to thank the organizers of this event for the invitation, for the opportunity to speak and to deliver several important messages. In peacetime, we are all working hard to keep our cities beautiful, developed, and favorable for the lives of our citizens, to keep them in comfort and safety. These were and remain the priorities of the city authorities in Kharkov. Last year, we organized several major projects that became landmarks, not just for our city, but for all of Ukraine. For example, the reconstruction of our zoo. It was recognized as the best in Eastern Europe by experts. The renewed zoo became another tourist attraction on a level with the Gorky Park, which is well known far beyond Kharkov and Ukraine, in fact. Also, last year, we also renewed and overhauled our entire public transport fleet, including Carlson coaches for bus travel around the city. We created dozens of new municipal routes. So we had many achievements. And we had intended to do a great deal more. We had grandiose plans for this year. We wanted to build a new metro station, extending the subway. We wanted a network of city parks and benches, an ice skating arena, an oceanarium, and much, much more. But then, as you know, on the 24th of February, war came to Ukraine. That war annihilated all of our plans. But the most horrific thing is that that war came and destroyed our city. A great deal of what we had slowly built over decades was completely destroyed in around 1 month. In Kharkov, on total, 1,600 infrastructure facilities have been destroyed. 1,300 of them were residential buildings. Shelling hurt dozens of schools, kindergartens, and hospitals. The enemy troops deliberately shell critical infrastructure that includes electric substations, heating networks, gas pipelines, pump stations, and other important infrastructure. After the artillery shelling and the airstrikes, every day we find new levels of destruction. And believe you me, you cannot look at this damage without tears in your eyes and a deep pain in your heart. Kharkov is full of artifacts of cultural heritage, architecture, monuments, statues, parks. They also suffer from the artillery shelling. To try to protect them from the bombing, at least to some degree, and to keep them for posterity, we have to fill bags with sand and stack them around every statue. Missiles just recently struck the Gorky Park, that famous park I had just mentioned. A number of workers and locals were injured. And now I have to mention the very worst. The bombing of Kharkov is killing our residents, the people of Kharkov. The peaceful civilians are being killed when they go to the shops or when they stand in line for humanitarian aid. The shells and the bombs are hitting residential homes. When they explode, they take away the lives of day-to-day citizens, of regular folk, and destroy their homes. In Kharkov, we have the North Sato, a large region where you cannot find one single residential home still standing. And yet, people still live in these ruins because they have nowhere to go. Hundreds of thousands of people were forced to flee Kharkov, escaping the Russian bombs and shells. About 30% of the residents of Kharkov have already left the city. Those who remain in the city have to hide every day in any shelter they can find, in the subway stations, in bomb shelters. We in the city government are doing everything that we can to ease the lives of these people, to try to make sure that they still get the basics that they need to give them some chance of survival. Ukraine needs our sky to be closed so that the enemy planes can no longer bomb our cities and kill us. I ask you to raise this issue before your parliaments, before your national politicians, to exert any pressure you can. For us, closing our skies is a question of life and death. At the same time, our thoughts also go to the future. What is going to have to be done after the war? Ukraine will win. This is inevitable. And that means that our future holds a long series of tasks to rebuild. Teams of architects are already working on the plans for reconstruction. We are developing a new concept for our city. Everything that we build will be totally and utterly new. This is a great opportunity to build a better city, even more comfortable and safe, more carefully thought out. But at the same time, we want to retain the old color, character, and spirit of Kharkov. To do all of this quickly, we will need your help. And I am very grateful to everyone who has already made their contribution to help Kharkiv and its residents. We are receiving humanitarian aid from all over the world and from our very many partner cities, from megapolises in the United States. And your assistance will continue to be invaluable, as important as it is now, because we will need a huge amount of resources to rebuild our city. I think that you, as mayors of major cities, will understand me well, because our cities are like our children. We love them, and we only hope for the very best for each of them. And so Kharkov will be counting on your support. I thank you all. Thank you for your attention.
Well, it's difficult to speak after after the presentation of the mayor of Kharkiv and to see the distractions and the impact that the war can cause, not just to the building and to the city, but to the people. How can people live in such situation under attack and to see the city destroyed? So yes, you have seen the support of other mayors, and I believe that you will see the support also, and not just moral support, but also all kind of support to redevelop your city. Yes, Russian Federation has asked for the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We would like to exercise the right of reply in connection with the intervention we've just heard. For the sake of brevity and clarity, and for those in the West who manipulates and controls the Kyiv regime, I will speak in English. But I thank Mr. Mayor for speaking in Russian. We strongly reject the false, ungrounded accusations made against us. Russia exercises the right to self-defense and conducts a special military operation in Ukraine designed to put an end to the war unleashed by Kyiv against the residents of the Donetsk and Lugansk People's Republic, which lasted 8 years and claimed the lives of 13,000 civilians who did not recognize the anti-constitutional coup in Kyiv in 2014. Let me stress that the Russian army does not strike at civilian facilities, communications, infrastructure. Accusations of such content are grossly distorted information. Through the efforts of the Russian armed forces, humanitarian corridors have been established. Hundreds of tons of food, medicines, and medical supplies are being delivered and distributed. At the same time, we note that the nationalist forces in Ukraine, hiding behind the civilian population as a human shield, are doing everything possible to increase the number of victims among civilians. The situation in Kharkiv is well known to the Russian side, thanks in particular to the reports of caring residents of the city, who do not want to remain hostage to the criminal regime and its militaries. Due to the criminal policy of the Kyiv authorities, a real humanitarian catastrophe is unfolding in the city. Nationalists place heavy military equipment in residential areas. Mr. Mayor will probably be able to tell us what is happening now at secondary school number 52 or school 78. I will help. In the first, militants of the nationalist battalion Azov are based. In the second, armed detachments of the territorial defense. To the southwest of Kharkiv, in the township of Novaya Vodolaga, the armed forces of Ukraine and territorial defense set up a headquarters in the building of the Lyceum number 3. In the village of the Kuchaevsky in the southeast of Kharkiv, units of the 164th Radio Engineering Brigade of the Ukrainian Armed Forces occupied the buildings of the Kharkiv National Agrarian University. On 11th March, territorial defense militants blew up one of the buildings of the Kharkiv Institute of Physics and Technology. Apparently, the purpose of this crime was to conceal the fact of conducting work on nuclear issues. Kharkiv residents are held hostage by radicals and cannot leave the humanitarian corridors. Their cars are shelled. Many roads along which one can evacuate are mined. People died. Let me specifically note to the evacuation route to Kupiansk. According to our data, 6,500 foreign citizens from 19 countries are among the hostages. This is the same tactics used by ISIS terrorists, but there are innovations. Mass arrests of citizens are being carried out in the city. People disappear only for supposedly good attitude towards Russia. Flying death squads, driving the forcibly seized vehicles, indiscriminately shoot at homes to intimidate civilians. The authorities forcibly recruit people in the so-called territorial defense unit. From the untrained, mobilized, cannon fodder is actually being made, exposed as a lightning rod for the Nazi battalions. An additional threat to residents is the uncontrolled distribution of weapons. In many buildings of the city, there is no heating, electricity and gas. Utility services do not carry out repair work. In hospitals, civilians are denied medical care. Only servicemen of the Ukrainian armed forces and territorial defense militants are treated. Kyiv indifference attitude to the fate of hundreds of thousands of peaceful compatriots causes indignation and anger.
Russian
We urge
Federation,
the
I would ask
administration
you
of
to come
Kharkiv.
to an end, please.
I'm finishing.
Thank you.
To do everything possible to save civilians of the city. At the website of the Kharkiv city administration, they list 7 wonders of Kharkiv. None of them actually was created during the independent Ukraine time, but it's up to the current authorities and administration to preserve them for the future generation. The truth will become known, that's for sure. The witnesses are numerous and they will speak. It will be grim and uncomfortable for all those who pour out rivers of lies and shed crocodile tears. Perhaps at the next forum, Mr. Mayor, you will dare to speak again. Thank you.
Thank you. United States.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I refrained from intervening yesterday because this Forum of Mayors is intended to be a venue where mayors from around the world can come to the UN and discuss their best practices. And as we can see from the intervention that we just heard from the Russian Federation, that it seems to not be the case today because of the controversial comments that our colleagues from the Russian Federation just made. After hearing the mayor of Kharkiv's and the mayor of Kyiv's comments earlier today at our side event hosted with the Italian mission, I want to express the United States support of Ukraine and its people and to make our position extremely clear because the Russian delegation and I tend to have this argument at many meetings, but I'm aware not everybody online or in the room follows the UN or UNECE as closely as some of us do. I want to be clear. Russia's attack on Ukraine was unprovoked and unjustified. President Putin has chosen a premeditated war that's going to bring catastrophic loss of life and human suffering. Russia alone is responsible for the death and destruction that this attack will bring, and the world must hold Russia accountable. Russia's actions constitute a clear violation of Article 2, Section 4 of the United Nations Charter, which states that all member states shall refrain in their international relations from the threat or use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any state. We call upon Russia to immediately cease its use of force against Ukraine and refrain from any further unlawful threat or use of force against any UN member state. We join Secretary General Guterres's urgent plea for Russia to immediately withdraw all of its military forces within Ukraine's internationally recognized borders. We call upon all parties to allow and facilitate rapid, safe, and unhindered access of humanitarian assistance to those in need in Ukraine, to protect civilians, including those who are humanitarian personnel and persons in vulnerable situations, including children, and to respect their rights. As you may know, on March 24th, President Biden authorized an additional $1 billion of aid to respond to the situation in Ukraine and the massive effects it's having on economies around the world. And as we work together to build back better from the global COVID pandemic and this situation caused by Ukraine, we hope that we can count on your partnership. And I would suggest, because this is the Forum of Mayors, that we continue to focus on the mayors and how they would like to lead this forum. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate of United States. And this is what also we want to continue with discussing the substance of the Forum of Mayors. I see France, Delegate of France, you have asked for the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you very much, Chair. France, speaking on behalf of the European Union and the 27 member states under its presidency of the European Union, I would, rather than deepening this debate, going further into it, simply like to reiterate what was said yesterday on behalf of the European Union and 27 states condemning Russia for the invasion of Ukraine and supporting Ukraine in its resistance against this unprovoked aggression. Thank you.
Thank you, representative of the EU. I see United Kingdom.
Thank you, Chair, for giving me the floor. I'll be brief. The United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland fully supports the statement of the United States and the European Union. We condemn Russia's invasion of Ukraine as an egregious violation of international law and the UN Charter. The UK stands in solidarity with Ukraine and its cities.
Thank you, United Kingdom. I'm told that Mayor of Kharkiv has asked for the floor.
Thank you. So it's on. Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Joseph Hakhalishvili. I am the.
Sorry, we have first Kharkiv and then
Okay.
Kutaisi. Yeah.
You can hear me well. I have just a few words to add. There are a few things which I did not plan to say, but I'm forced to present these messages after what I've heard from the Russian Federation. I am stunned by what I heard, because those facts that were just listed are distortions. And so first I can say there are no Azov legions in Kharkov. Azov, as far as I know, is in Mariupol. Second, I invite you personally now to come to Kharkov now and to talk to people in the city. I speak Russian. 95% of the people in Kharkov speak Russian, but they are no less Ukrainian for that. And what you have done with the peaceful city of Kharkov today, we didn't attack anyone. We were just living our own peaceful lives in peace. I think maybe you've simply been incorrectly informed by your mass media. And so I invite you to come here now and see what you are doing to Ukraine. Come and see what you are doing to the city of Kharkov. Talk to the regular people who will speak Russian to you, the people who are and will always remain Ukrainians.
Thank you. Thank you for your clarification. And now I give the floor to Mayor of Kutaisi, but I would ask you briefly.
My name is Joseph Hakhalishvili, and I am the mayor of the city of Kutaisi from Georgia, which is a sister city of the Kharkiv. And I to say the critics to the mayor of the Kharkov. And I would like to support the announcement of the mayor of the Vilnius to make the announcement regarding the situation in Kharkiv. So I would like to express our support once again to the Kharkiv and to the Ukrainian people. Slava Ukraini.
Thank you. Thank you. So I don't see further requests for the floor. Therefore, we finish with this part and we pass to the third session of our Forum of Mayors, resilient, healthy and climate neutral buildings and affordable and adequate housing. And I invite Mr. Martin Stakis, Mayor of Riga, Latvia. Apologies for my pronunciation. And Ms. Stephanie Führer that will continue to co-moderate the session. Thank you.
So dear mayors, delegates, organizers, dear friends, and well, it is difficult to talk about resilient, healthy and climate neutral buildings and affordable and then housing while so many houses are destroyed day by day by the army of Russian Federation and people are living in ruins. But I'm sure that all mayors of all the three cities around the world will do our best to help to rebuild the cities in the three cities in Ukraine. And I can promise you that Riga will be the safe place for Ukrainian refugees as long as needed. And they will be accepted with love and dignity. But we have to start the session. And I give the floor to Stephanie, please.
Thank you. So we're going in this third session, we're going to talk about resilient, healthy and climate neutral buildings, affordable and adequate housing. And we're going to hear of several mayors on the subject. And I'm very curious what they all have to say. And I first will give the floor to Mr. Tassos Kriakokis. Sorry for the pronunciation. He's the former mayor of Athens, Greece. And he will talk about Athens' experience with resilient, healthy and climate neutral buildings.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. My intervention will not focus on our green efforts today, but on the housing sector for those who are in need. Athens proudly joins you and sends a strong message of hope, strength, unity, and peace. The brave Ukrainian resistance to a destructive and merciless attack has proven to all of us that has proven to the world that heroes still live among us, and they have gained our immense admiration and respect. Unshaken and unwavering, their fight has lit a fire inside all of us who work to promote fairness and justice in our own cities, so that the light of freedom and self-determination may also shine brightly anywhere that dark authoritarianism shows its ugly face. Athens, faithful to its history and traditions, supports with humanitarian aid Kiev, Mariupol, small and large cities, the whole of the friendly Ukrainian people. Our ties with Kiev go back to centuries. Our Ukrainian friends know about the long ties that unite us with the martyred city of Mariupol. I say here that Prime Minister Mitsotakis already declared that Greece is ready to rebuild the maternity hospital in Mariupol, which has been completely destroyed. And Mariupol, I have to remind you, is the center of the Greek minority in Ukraine, a city dear to our hearts. And now it became, unfortunately, the symbol of the barbarity of the war. Till now, we have received 17,000 Ukrainian citizens. The overwhelming majority live now in houses of friends and parents, and that's really a blessing. However, currently, a small number use the structures of the city of Athens. Over the past 2 years, here in Athens, we have focused our attention on those in need. At the beginning of 2019, the municipality of Athens tried to put into effect an ambitious plan in order to reinvigorate the city by investing in affordable housing for those who really need it. In the past 2.5 years, we have successfully managed to rejuvenate the center for hosting and solidarity of the municipality of Athens. The center hosts more than 100 people now, with a capacity to host almost 400 people, and currently supports 200 people on the streets by providing food and first aid kits. With the help of private funding and the effective allocation of public funds, we have managed to offer free health services ranging from dental appointments to regular cardiovascular exams, both for the people that stay there in the center, as well as for those who are still reluctant to join the center's housing services. As you know, this is a psychological problem we have to tackle too. The guest house here also belongs to the Center for Hosting and Solidarity, and currently hosts 52 elderly homeless people. In addition, the Center for Social Housing is a facility consisting of 9 fully operational flats. Currently, 4 of them are hosting families and 5 are about to be renovated very, very soon, and expect really to host a larger number. 45 households with a total of 56 beneficiaries are supported by the Housing and Work program that offers both hosting and job finding services. Apart from that, we have instigated a program for supporting homeless drug users. For the first time in Greece, the city of Athens has been able to provide a safe space for more than 70 homeless drug users in their effort to fight addiction. We are not just talking about a regular housing project, but rather an all amenities inclusive guest house. Finally, another issue that we have tried to tackle is the misconduct and violent behavior towards women and children. That is why we are operating a guest house for victims of sexual violence and discriminatory practices. To this day, the guest house has hosted more than 170 women and children accordingly. So I stop here and I express the hope for a better future for those in need, and especially for our Ukrainian friends. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tereko. I want to thank you for your solidarity with the Ukrainian people. I want to thank you for your offer to rebuild the maternity hospital in Mariupol, and also for your generosity towards the refugees. I think it's very impressive how you showed us that Athens in general tries to accommodate all different kinds of vulnerable populations, and including the new Ukrainian refugees. Thank you very much. Now I want to give the floor to Mick Finn, the Deputy Lord Mayor of Cork, Ireland.
Merci, mesdames et messieurs, fellow mayors, Madam Chair. Good morning, everybody. And thank you for tuning in here in the chamber in Geneva and also online. Listening to some of the contributions yesterday and today, it strikes me that there is a lot of commonality in the challenges we face as cities, but also with the opportunities we can grasp post-COVID. There is an obvious commonality too in our abhorrence at what is happening in Ukraine, to its people, to its cities, and we in Ireland join in the condemnation of Russia that has hallmarked the contributions in this forum in the last 2 days. Our cities and their people are responding to the traumatic events in Ukraine by opening their hearts, their homes, our schools, and their pockets to help those fleeing the war. And we have seen this already with a number of Ukrainians who are arriving in our city. People and humanity respond when politics and diplomacy fails. And our cities can continue to vocalize that response and inform our national foreign policies. And I would join the call of the Vilnius mayor in his call for a declaration from this meeting, because in our unity there is strength. To turn to Cork, and Cork is a city of just over 210,000 people, and this is a number that we'll come back to later, and a metropolitan area of over 450,000 people in the south of Ireland. We are home to a highly developed IT sector as well as a pharma sector, and we're known as the culinary capital. The International Choral Festival and Jazz Festival reaped our reward as European Capital of Culture in 2005. High and ambitious targets have been set in Ireland's national planning framework for the sustainable development of the city over the next 20 years, providing a counterbalance to Dublin as a second city, but also empowering us to stand alone as a European city of scale. Growth is forecast at up to 50%, and already a 3.5 billion euro transportation plan has been devised to prioritise active travel and public transport. We have ambitious plans for the development of a strategic dockland site of some 146 hectares in our city to include 20,000 new housing units, and which will yield 25,000 jobs in the next 2 decades. The area has already seen the development of a 50,000 capacity sports stadium that can host conferences and concerts, built in a sustainable way with nature-based solutions and integrated flood defences. In our first photograph, we detail a major flood defence system for a city that's built on a river prone to fluvial and tidal flooding. This has been finalised at present and has proven to be controversial, again, as other mayors have mentioned the last number of days, in the context of coming up with a solution that will work, but also mindful of its potential impact on historic limestone quay walls, habitats and ecologies. The city is progressing an element of the scheme itself in the lowest lying part of the city centre to address immediate flooding issues. And the sustainable development strategy fueling this plan centres around providing a solution to flooding, but also incorporating a public realm improvement with seating, spaces for public performance, planting, etc., factored into the design. Gaps in our city's outdoor seating and recreational infrastructure and buildings became apparent during the COVID restrictions, particularly when people could not travel outside of their 5-kilometre radius. So the pandemic has ushered in a shift in thinking and approaches, and even a realization among the populace who are crying out for reimagined spaces closer to their homes. That will be a key component of future council developments and policies to ensure resilience and adherence to carbon reduction goals. In our second photograph, you will notice that Cork has a very youthful and young population that is passionate about informing the future of its city, with climate action considerations high up in their thinking. We have well-established cross-community networks operating, which were particularly visible and valuable during their various responses to the COVID-19 lockdowns. It is envisaged that climate action campaigns and policies can be accelerated at this level from a ground-up perspective. We have engaged with school children through art to identify solutions and new approaches to addressing climate change. And over 2,000 children participated in a recent initiative bringing conversations into the everyday experience of their homes. We have a long way to travel here, but Cork has applied to become one of Europe's 100 carbon neutral cities by 2030, having reduced emissions as a city by 50% since 1990. And as a UNESCO learning city and a WHO healthy city, we also continue to shape policies to ensure better outcomes and brighter futures for our young people, and we can do this without the fear of looking into the skies. Picture number 3, we speak about housing, and we have 2 universities and several major multinational employers based in our city, which is obviously hugely beneficial for the economic and social life of the city, the county, and the region. But equally, it can present pressures on services, and in particular on housing. Cork was recently ranked #1 for economic potential in the Financial Times FDI European Cities and Regions of the Future, ahead of, dare I say it, Geneva. But supply of housing and keeping up with student accommodation demand are factors that threaten this potential. So striking a balance between housing supply to cater for population growth estimated at 125,000 over the next 2 decades, as well as respecting climate change goals and the integrity of our existing built and natural environment is the dichotomy in which we now operate, like many of the cities in this room. So Cork City Council is actively delivering the national government's policy of rebuilding Ireland, which is our housing policy, through various schemes. And in all, 17,000 new housing units are to be built within the next 6 years, with 1/3 of those designated as below cost rental, social or affordable homes. We are also promoting downsizing among our elderly population. And in this photo of housing developments in our city, it shows a number of sites being completed or being finished, demonstrating how energy efficient methodologies are incorporated in our new builds. And in one of those images, it shows a €16 million development of 65 efficient homes, replacing 3 blocks of apartments, stroke flats that were constructed in the 1970s. And these were knocked because of poor building quality, zero energy efficiency, and major antisocial connotations. So housing developments are ongoing in the old city centre as well, as part of a major regeneration and retrofit programme. And turning derelict and unused areas of the city into living, breathable spaces is key to this transformation. And that transformation in turn is needed to meet the needs of single people and young couples who are currently locked out of our housing market. When you add to this melting pot of demand will be the need to house the Ukrainian citizens who have begun arriving in our city. As a country that is familiar with conflict and that's up its people scattered to the 4 corners of the globe during the famine and welcomed to many of the countries and cities represented in this room, we will do our utmost to support and accommodate them. An estimated 30,000 new housing units are going to be needed nationally if the expected 200,000 Ukrainians arrive in Ireland. This number, along with those already on housing waiting lists and living in temporary accommodation, puts increased pressure on housing need, which will require creative and ambitious solutions. And to conclude, we all want to build and rebuild our cities post-COVID in a way that affords as many people as possible a chance to progress and fulfill their potential. We want and have to do so in a way that is empathetic to the physical and natural environments in which our cities were first imagined and molded. We also aspire to be a 15-minute city where housing, jobs, education and services are all within easy commuting distance of the population. It is clear from the excellent contributions yesterday and today from the cities represented at this forum is that we have an opportunity to plan for bright, sustainable and resilient futures. As we say in our own language, uni nusum, strength in unity as our cities continue to bounce back. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Finn. Thank you for underscoring the commonalities and the strength in numbers, which we have. And thank you also for accommodating the many Ukrainian refugees that are expected in Ireland.
So the next speaker comes from the city of Bishkek, the great capital of Kyrgyzstan. It has a rapid population growth, reaching 1 million residents. And the city has a very clear goal to become smart, sustainable and resilient city. And to represent the Bishkek way of affordable and adequate housing policy, I'll give floor to the Madam Vice Mayor of the city of Bishkek, Victoria Mozgacheva. Please, floor is yours.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Distinguished Chair, participants of the second forum of mayors, friends, colleagues. At the outset, allow me to thank the Economic Commission for Europe for organizing today's event and for giving us an opportunity to ensure cooperation between municipalities, cities, mayors, and other representatives of local authorities. There's a lot of potential to increase international cooperation on various issues that are of mutual interest in bilateral formats and within the UN and other international organizations. Today, we all have one task: to achieve sustainable development goals through to 2030. Bishkek, with about 1,200,000 people, is the capital of Kyrgyzstan. Like other countries, they took on the obligation to implement the Sustainable Development Goals, bringing its policies into line with the SDGs. The cooperation between Kyrgyzstan with the Economic Commission for Europe is very successful at this stage. With the support of the UNECE and the UN, we have developed a program for 5 cities of the country. Population participated actively in the sociological survey. We used outcomes to develop further development of Bishkek and its green reserves. Coronavirus, of course, impacted us like others. With the help of UNECE, we are developing a strategy to recover the economy and sustainability of Bishkek to respond to the pandemic. We plan to use it to complement other programs. Thanks to cooperation with UNECE in September 2021, the municipality of Bishkek had a virtual initiative on the development of Asian cities. We sent a proposal to have a logical center in cities that will help create jobs, improve the revenues of Bishkek population. We're now working on an initiative to develop Asian cities, to prepare projects and programs for the involvement of the necessary investment, and this in order to modernize engineering infrastructure and build civil facilities using greener technologies. Given the population of the city, the situation with unplanned settlements and social and economic challenges, the town hall and other facilities developed a program to modernize 5 informal city settlements and create logistical settlements and facilities in non-residential areas. We're doing this within the framework of sustainable development program of the UNECE. Obtained technical assistance from the UNECE for residential areas and is supported by the Cabinet of Ministers and the President of Kyrgyzstan. This program focuses on 5 residential areas. We plan that this will be an example for the development of the other 42 parts of the city of Bishkek. We are considering 5 comprehensive development of 5 informal settlements. There'll be about 75,000 people living in these areas that will receive assistance. It will be developed on a comprehensive inclusive approach to the development of cities to ensure that we can provide assistance to vulnerable groups of population, will modernize social infrastructure and social services, will provide assistance to children, ensure access to educational organizations. This will allow parents, in particular women, to give more time to children's upbringing and other household and family-related tasks. It will have an impact on the health of the population through waste management and wastewater management. It will help us to ensure access to water and create new jobs in order to reduce outside and internal migration and to meet the needs of the unemployed and of the youth sector as well. We hope that basic services, housing, environmental, energy and water services, sanitation services, will be brought into line with modern standards. Practical implementation of the ideas requires a lot of time and resources. Unfortunately, given the time limits, we have almost none of the 2 left. Through joint efforts, we hope we can achieve Sustainable Development Goals until 2030. I'd like to wish the participants of the forum successful intensive work and every success in fulfilling your plans. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Madam Vice Mayor. And thank you for your efforts to modernize your city, to rebuilding the sustainable housings and the jobs you're creating for the people of Kyrgyzstan. And I'm so glad to hear that you also had ambitious plans for goals for 2030, because if we really want to save our planet and take care about the future of our planet, so all the cities have to work on those goals. And thank you so much. So the next speaker comes from United Kingdom, from city of Bristol, and the city of Bristol was named as Britain's most sustainable city. And Mayor Marvin Reese has served as mayor in Bristol since 2016. Reese oversaw the founding of the city-owned housing company, creating to develop and to build affordable and social housing. And I'm also honored to be the schoolmate of the Marvin Reese, very good friend and really great mayor. So I give a floor to the Marvin Reese, mayor of Bristol, who will join us online.
Thank you very much. And it's great to share the space with you again. So I'm going to focus on housing today. Bristol, like many cities, is facing the challenge of having a finite geographical area with 42 square miles. We're surrounded by countryside that's protected as greenbelt, so we're not getting any more space. We have 460,000 people, 465,000 people living in the city, but we're growing rapidly. We'll be 550,000 by 2050. In that context, we have 16,000 families on our social housing waiting list. We do have a housing crisis in the city, over 1,000 households in temporary accommodation. And housing is by far and away one of the most critical issues facing the city, and it underpins a lot of our wider issues, from inequality to political disengagement to economic inequality in the city as well. Government are prioritising housing in the UK. They've set a target for new homes building for Bristol of 60,000 homes over the next 20 years. We, within our current capacity, can build 2,000 a year for 20 years. So you can see there's a 20,000 home difference in that target, and that's not for lack of ambition. It's for lack of realism and commitment by national government that there's a discrepancy between the two. But nonetheless, we're trying to get those numbers up. But we're facing this challenge, as we're all setting out today, in the face of a climate and ecological emergency. We have to meet that housing need while recognizing that the planet has limits and working to those planetary limits. But actually, housing can be the solution. We recognize in Bristol that the kind of homes we build and where we build them will be one of the biggest determinants of the price the planet pays for us meeting the needs of our population, which is why we're focusing on city centre sites at higher density. So within this picture, even at the far side in the top left-hand corner, you can just see, just along from the bridge, there's a city centre site that we'll come to now in image 2, which is Western Harbour. Western Harbour is, if we can go to the next slide, Western Harbour is a site that's dominated by a 1960s road layout. You can just see the traffic jam in front of you. If we move that bridge, we can fit around 2,500 homes in this part of the city. It's a 7-minute bike ride to the city centre, and it's a 25-minute walk. And that's the point we are making, that we need to build on brownfield, old industrial sites in the middle of Bristol, where people are encouraged and supported to engage in active travel solutions. As we build in this part of the city as well, you'll see this is on the river that comes in, the main river that comes into the port that's in the middle of Bristol. We have the opportunity to build flood defences at the same time. We can bring the water side back into use for more Bristolians, and the waterfront in the city's been the preserve of the wealthier households historically. And also by bringing people into the middle of the city, not only do we support active travel, but we support our city centre, our retail hubs, that are next to the city centre that have come under incredible pressure anyway, but certainly that pressure has grown on them during the course of COVID. So we can do all those things at the same time if we can plan and if we can get it right. But that planning and getting it right doesn't happen in an abstract. It doesn't happen just because we say it. It happens because we get the right kind of financial journey with us from government, from international organizations to work with us to deliver the city that we want to deliver. On this site, incidentally, we through our own means of delivering, we can get 50% affordable homes. 50% affordable homes in the middle of Bristol is an incredible achievement, and again helps us build that inclusive city that we so urgently need as we face underlying drivers that have been worsened by COVID that drive our city towards deeper inequalities. Can we go to the third slide, please? This is a development in Bristol, really innovative approach. These homes are called Hope Rise. They are 11 off-site manufactured units that were built for young people under the age of 35 who would otherwise have been homeless. They're built on a metal frame that's about 2.5 meters high. So it's above a car park in the middle of Bristol again. This was just a space for cars. Now it is, as the name says, it's a place for hope. So these 11 units are the result of a unique and well, hopefully the first of many partnership between ourselves as the local authority, Bristol Housing Festival that really is taking a lead in the city and across the country on modular homes, Z-Pods who build zero carbon modular starter homes, and a youth charity, YMCA. So with the YMCA, we've identified the young people, and we have two placemakers, we call them, who live in the homes to support those young people, form communities. The homes themselves are made from cross-laminated timber. They have solar PV cells, battery storage, and heat pumps. So there's zero carbon homes in the middle of the city, providing housing for people who otherwise would have been homeless, who are now living in community. And very personally, I met one of the young people only a year or so ago, and was just hearing how having this home had enabled them to actually create a firm base, start living properly, get a job, and start to rebuild their lives. And for me, that speaks into one of the real priorities that we all as city leaders take very seriously, and that's a just transition. We can't take a single issue approach to environmental and ecological responsibility. We have to take people with us. Otherwise, if environmentalism comes at increased financial costs and further marginalization of the poorest, we will end up with a political backlash from driving forward these urgent measures we need to take. So we must have the finances, the predictability, the planning that means that we build a different kind of society, as a more inclusive society, as well as a more sustainable society. Thank you.
Thank you, Marvin, so much for sharing your solutions, how to build a new residential housing in very limited space, especially in city centers. So 50% of the social homes, I think it's very, very impressive target. And thank you also for the great example for affordable housing. I think these are the solutions we really want to hear and we want to learn from. And I think Mayor Marvin Reese also raised a very important question. I believe this is a question is very important for all of us, is support of government, because we can't, the cities can't solve the housing problem alone. And I think this is a very important issue. Thank you so much.
I now invite Mr. Manfred Bischoff, the mayor of the city of Vaduz in Liechtenstein, to the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's very difficult to speak on the topic of this session. With all my thoughts on the situation in the crisis areas, especially Ukraine, I start my presentation. I'm honored and pleased to provide a short overview of the sustainable action that is going on in the capital of Liechtenstein. I will give you an idea of how we have made our buildings more energy efficient and climate neutral, but also how we focus on the next generation, enhancing awareness of nature-based and green solutions. The first picture shows the view over our town of Vaduz, the region and the Swiss mountain. It's a new platform that was built in the forest. This picture turned out to be a symbol of the sustainable strategy at Vaduz developed last year. It shows the view and the vision. With this sustainable strategy, Vaduz is the first municipality in Liechtenstein that complete this kind of process. Sustainability, it is important for our daily activities, have been a focus on the municipality for a long time. Many projects have long been built on a sustainable basic idea. It's important that today's sustainability is placed in a larger context to enable sustainable development of all topics and areas of life. Since October 2020, the municipality of Liechtenstein, Vaduz, has been the first fair trade town. The municipality is also a miniature town and was awarded with the European Energy Award Gold for the first time in autumn 2021. A few words about the town of Vaduz so that you can see that we are rather small, in a rather small country. 5,800 nearly people live in Vaduz. This is the capital of Liechtenstein, a country with nearly 40,000 inhabitants. So you see, we are more than you would call a small village than a city. However, we are the capital and therefore the first and most important contact point for visitors. Vaduz is the residence of the princely family and seat of the government, the Liechtenstein parliament, and the national authorities. Next picture. Before I tell you more about project for an energy efficient and climate neutral heating solution, I would like to underline the importance of involving the next generation in as many projects as possible. We have that what we call a global field in Vaduz. You can see the smiling children after they harvest potatoes. The children learn how the crops are grown and what steps are necessary before the crops can be eaten. With great interest, the children follow the time from planting to the appearance of the first visible plants and in the end successfully harvest. We work together with schools to bring these topics and everything involving sustainability very close to the children. That's the way people and especially children learn what local and healthy food means, what food cycles are, and what in the end climate neutral cycles mean. Only if people understand the basics can they also support all the strategy process of our municipality. That brings me to the third picture. I would like to show you. It shows our town hall with square in front of it. The picture was taken last summer. You can see a playground with grass, sand, plants. That is the way we provide meeting places for the public, which is also one of the main goals of the sustainable strategy focused on settlement development and urban planning. In this context, energy is a very big issue. Right now, Vaduz is realizing a project involving thermal energy. Heat is generated by using waste heat. The heat of thermal energy is supplied to customers in the form of hot water via a network of pipes for heating and cooling. In our region, the Association for Waste Disposal has been operating a district heating network since 1970s. It used heat from the waste incineration plant that is situated close by, it's over the Rhine and on the Swiss side. Now, Vaduz will be connected to this heating network, and it will also be possible to supply the municipal area of Vaduz with district heating in a very near future. In the fourth picture, the youth hostel in Vaduz is showcased when it comes to climate neutral buildings and affordable adequate housing. The building was finished last spring. It has a total of 116 beds, and it also a light appearance and nestles into the landscape. On the picture, you can see eating area with the large windows fronts, lots of food, a color concept that is oriented downwards the nature around the building. The new building of the youth hostel meets the current criteria of environmental friendly and energy efficient new building. In line with the requirements of the municipalities of Schaan and Vaduz, energy cities, the building is certified to the Minergie P standard. Minergie P designates the lowest energy building and meets the highest standard in terms of quality, comfort, and energy. The soiled construction with good storage mass, triple glazing on the windows, and external sun protection ensure pleased living comfort. A photovoltaic system on the flat roof generates electricity for the building's own needs. The energy for heating is generated by a groundwater pump, heat pump, and the entire building is equipped with a comfort ventilation system. To build the hostel, alternative and sustainable materials were used. Sustainability in the best sense is also possible because the neighboring municipalities of Vaduz and Schaan organized and financed the youth hostel together. We see it's an opportunity to conserve resources, to work together. In the end, sustainable development is only possible together. That is what we try to focus on in Vaduz. We are shaping the future development of Vaduz together with the population, not only till the year 2030, but far beyond. Thank you very much, and I hope for a peaceful future around the world.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bischoff. Thank you very much for presenting us, for introducing us to Vaduz and to your solutions to a vast array of challenges, and for reminding us to implicate the next generation and the whole population in finding these solutions. Next, I want to invite Mrs. Krupa, the mayor of Katowice, to the floor. No?
Okay, it seems that, sorry? Yes, I think we will hear the report from Mayor Krupa a little later on. So we move forward. And the next speaker will come from city of Bratislava. And city of Bratislava has made a tremendous job for accommodating the Ukrainian refugees. Many Slovaks opened the doors and their homes to Ukrainian refugees, and thank you so much for your humanity and for your kindness. And Bratislava is the capital, very close to Ukraine, with 660,000 residents. And now I give the floor to Madame Lenka Antolova Plavuchova, the Deputy Mayor from Bratislava, Slovakia.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me and Bratislava at this forum. And please let me say at the very beginning a few words about the situation in Ukraine. We, as Bratislava, the capital of Slovakia, the nearest neighbor of Ukraine, we strongly condemn the aggression and military attack against Ukraine, which we are observing with a shock in last weeks. This action is unacceptable in today's world and jeopardizes the freedom and world security. Bratislava and Slovakia fully support the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine, and we all hope that Ukraine will resist. In these dark times, our thoughts are with Ukraine, their men, women, young people, and children who must face this aggression and fear for their lives. On behalf of me, of the mayor of Bratislava, and all the Bratislava people, I should like to express our full support and deepest solidarity with Ukrainian people. And now let me say a few words about situation with housing in Bratislava. Please, could we move, yes, to the first picture. This is a picture of Bratislava, the capital city of Slovakia. So let's start with building of affordable city housing system in our capital. Situation in our capital city with housing is not very good. We have insufficient number of housing stock and rental flats which we can provide to our citizens. And there is a constant demand for affordable housing in our city, and housing crisis in Bratislava is deepening. There is a really strong tradition of real estate ownership, and high percentage of houses and flats are in the private ownership. We have high housing prices, low income households, and young families, single living persons, and immigrants, the very groups that make up a significant part of the workforce are in disadvantage. And this situation affects the quality of life of many citizens who, with stagnant wages, are increasingly struggling with rising real estate prices and commercial rents. And especially during the last years of pandemic, the construction of many buildings were suspended, real estate prices rose and sharply in Bratislava because of COVID capital, which deepened the problem of housing affordability in Bratislava. Can we move to another slide, please? Yes. And we, as a current leading managers of our city, 3 years ago, we discussed a lot what we can do with affordable housing and rental housing in Bratislava. And we propose a completely new public policy called concept of urban housing policy to 2020 to 2030. And it's entirely new concept discussing about how to provide more flats to the stock of flats of our city. Only 1% of all housing stock in Bratislava is city's rental housing, and we have only 1,900 city rentals flats. And the waiting period for public rental flat is 8 years. And Bratislava is generally very well below European average in the provision of affordable rental housing, and we have the lowest percentage of affordable housing stock in the capitals of V4. For example, Vienna has 25% of all stock. In Brno, for example, it's 15%. of all housing possibilities. And Bratislava is also at the bottom of the rankings compared to the rest of Slovakia. Yes, can we move, please? And we believe that the quality and affordable housing should be standard and not the privilege for our citizens. We established also the Municipal Housing Organization institution for implementing the concept and vision in this area. And our city position is to be active, offering long-term, sustainable and systematic solutions. Our aim is an efficient, socially sensitive and ecologically balanced thickening of available land, use of those areas owned by the cities and which no longer fulfill their function and are neglected and unused located in the inner city. We believe in these three principles of building city flat stocks, and it's spatial inclusion, social inclusion, and participatory processes. And we believe that communication and meetings with citizens and neighboring communities, we usually ask the residents what they propose to have in their neighborhood, and our aim is to inform them about our goals and further steps. Yes, can we move? Thank you. And this is the picture, the visualization of one of our first municipal affordable housing project. We used the unused urban land owned by the city, and the goal of this project is the quality of architecture, structural simplicity, quality public spaces with emphasis of sufficient greenery. We have in this very project only 4 floors. 5 to 8% will consist of shared service areas, and also we will provide available parking, good connection to existing or planned bike routes, and we will provide in next year's 82 flats to our citizens. And this project will be finished in 2024. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, and thank you for standing with Ukraine. And I can assure you that also from the Baltics, we can see what a tremendous job you do by hosting the Ukrainian refugees. And 1% of housing owned by city, it sounds very familiar to me. And also the problem of the rising of real estate prices and rents became a really huge problem in many cities. And I think we have to join the forces and share our experiences how to deal with that. So thank you so much. And we continue with Poland. Unfortunately, the mayor can't join us, but instead of mayor of Katowice, Mr. Krupa, Ms. Marta Chmielewska will be speaking. Hopefully you are with us.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. On behalf of Mayor Krupa, I want to apologize about his absence, but the Ukrainian refugees crisis in Poland make his all attention. We'll estimate the number of refugees at 20,000 people, but we note that it's difficult to calculate. I would like to add that before attack on Ukraine, about 2,000 people were registered in Katowice. The situation in Katowice is very similar in other large cities in Poland. The refugees are in the flight state. It's not easy for them to settle down, calm down, and came to terms with the idea that they can spend the next weeks, months, and even years in Poland. We are calling for the end of the war. Now I will make presentation prepared by Mayor Krupa. Thank you. On the first picture, you see the Nikiszowiec. Nikiszowiec is not only the Silesian workers' housing estate to be preserved in the original form, but it's definitely the most famous. It has now been made into a fashionable place to live, as well as with destination of tourists. Creating new investments in Nikishoviec district, we face the challenge how to keep consistent look of the district without losing the history. I would like to present two investments, one completed and one in preparation. In the past years, the district experienced impressive revitalization, due to which is today beautiful and safe place, resident-friendly and open to tourists. A walk through the Nikishoviec streets is like a travel into the past, to the time when the district was dominated by the industry. Today's Nikishoviec opened the service and the creative industry. This is the space where you can eat well, find accommodation in a hotel or an apartment, or go to a gallery. A branch of the Museum of Katowice history is situated here. A unique industrial nature of the mining housing estate is favorable for events organization. Can you change the slide? Thank you. So it's no wonder that the new Nikishoviec housing estate, which will comprise 513 flats, as well as service and commercial premises, arise close to the historical development. This investment project confirms the unique nature of this part of Katowice and forces the pace of its development. In terms of architecture and urban planning, it refers to the solution of the historic Nikishoviec through the brick red colors of the facade in the several shades that from a characteristical pattern. Inside all three quarters, there are country yards filled with green areas. There are also community gardens where residents can grow plants. At the same time, we built a new road to the estate along with a bicycle path, sidewalk, and bus stop. Can you change the slide? Thank you. The prosperity in the steel and mining industry lasted till the last decade of 20th century. The Empire Upper Silesia, which landscape was marked with the hosting shafts and chimneys, faced a great challenge. A change in the structure of economy forced the urban centers of redefine their identity. Katowice coped with this task very well, minding the position of the contribution leaders. Our industrial history has caused that we think about changing the purpose of space, especially post-industrial spaces. We are thinking what should be put in this location. Thinking out of the box, we decide e-gaming. Can you change the slide? A strategy in the account market trends the tendencies of determinants of well-managed city. The vision of Katowice futures assumes a great engagement in the IT sector. The Katowice Gaming and Technology Hub integrates with this idea. The facilities will be situated around the Pułaski and Poniatowski shafts, which belong to the former Wieczorek mine. A hybrid project assumes management of buildings belonging to the closed mine and also the construction of new facilities. The city wants a modern center, comprehensively responding to the gaming sector needs to originate the post-industrial site. The hub's portfolio includes referring office and co-working space, service and shared infrastructure, renting of TV studios and recording laboratories, data center, rendering farm. The hub will be a passage between the historical Nikishoviec and the new Nikishoviec housing estate. This way, the technology will become a symbolical bridge between 2000 and the 2001 century, as well as parable of change proceeding in the Katowice. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this presentation. Thank you very much for the effort of your city to accommodate all these Ukrainian refugees. I think it's a tremendous task to do for all Polish cities at the moment. And thank you for presenting us with these different estates in all these historical buildings, which are very, very beautiful to watch and very interesting. Thank you.
Well, a few words from my side. And first of all, thank you so much for supporting Ukraine. And I think almost all speakers was showing their solidarity. Dear mayors, please check your email, because The mayor of Vilnius, Remigijus Šimašius, is now working on a draft of resolution and should be sent to your emails as soon as possible. So today, I think we all agree that for sustainable development, it's a long-term financing, and that's why the finances and predictability is so important to develop and to work with those issues. We see that not only building a new affordable housing or social housing is important, but it's also important to find the right place in the cities in order to integrate our fellow citizens into society. We clearly see that Ukrainian refugees, which are coming to our cities, and they're coming more and more day by day, will rise in new challenges, and we need to find the answers on those challenges as soon as possible. And personally, I think that not only cities should take care of this, but also European Commission should play a very important role in this process. And I'm very glad that affordable housing can also be the environmental friendly. We can clearly see that by the examples showed us today. So thank you so much for all the presentation. We still have a time also for some open discussions. So if anyone wants to say some words, please raise your hands.
Yes, Russian Federation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Russian Federation categorically is against the adoption of a resolution of the Forum of Mayors. We would like to remind you that the forum is on urban planning, residential areas, and use of land. In line with the rules of procedure, all of the documents that are being put forward for proposal need to be provided in advance. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Paula has asked for the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Indeed, let me take the floor just to clarify what can be tabled and what cannot be tabled. First of all, we're talking about resolutions, but UNEC does not approve resolutions, normally works only on decisions, but this is just terminology. Any documents that has to be considered by this meeting should have been submitted officially long time ago and translated as well. So this forum is not in a position to agree on any resolution / a decision. So I understand, plus I mean, the Secretariat has understood that there is an email going around. Having said that, if you want to discuss this outside of the meeting room and outside of the official program, that's entirely up to you, but there is no official document or no text that can be considered by this meeting today. So I hope it's clear. I'll be happy to provide you with more information on procedures if it's needed. Otherwise, I think we can then perhaps proceed with what I was supposed to do at the beginning of the session and we have forgotten, but for the sake of the report, I was supposed to make a sort of introduction on
It's yours.
Yes, can we please, sorry for interrupting you, but can we give the word to the Remigijus Šimašius, Mayor Vilnius, please?
Dear colleagues, I do understand that while initiating this kind of resolution or declaration, I would suggest that it should be declaration. It's okay, no problem with this. Causes some procedural issues, which is addressed by Madam Chair. And of course, we have to reflect to these remarks that it is not a part of official agenda of UNEC conference. However, we should admit the clear fact that we gathered here at the conference, and we may, of course, we gathered for the sake of discussion, and we may achieve goals which were not included into agenda inside this room, outside this room, but not in the frame of the agenda, which was announced beforehand. So we as the mayors are free elected people, and of course we are free to sign any documents, which even though they are not into the agenda, if it's not a part of this officially of this room. So I fully accept it. However, we also have to accept that I was hearing very in detail all the mayors speaking, and I heard every single mayor referring to the same fact, the most essential fact, and this is the fact. I didn't hear any mayor objecting to it or whitewashing Russia's aggression on Ukraine. So this is the fact. Nobody opposes stating what is most important. So of course we will correct this text according to the remarks by Madam Chair, saying that it's not resolution, it's declaration, it's signed by mayors and so on. And of course, we will ask mayors to sign them personally on paper document and then disseminate. That's not a problem. But of course, we should not hide it under the carpet, pretending that it doesn't exist. So of course, we do reflect to it, but I urge colleague mayors to sign it. Before the lunch, I hope that we will manage to get it on paper while entering the lunchroom, or we will approach you in the hall, and I urge you to ask. If somebody opposes, please, you're free to say, but so far I didn't hear anyone opposing this kind of statement. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor Remigijus, and I give the floor back to the director.
Thank you again, moderator. Just again to remind you that this will not be a UNEC document in any case, so will not be an outcome of this forum of mayors. That's that should be clear. Then again, as I said, what you do in your capacity as mayors is entirely up to you. I should go back perhaps now to the substance of it. We are doing it upside down, as I should have started with this sort of setting the scene and context for the session we just had. I have to say that I was following on and off, and I realized the importance of images that we have used in this forum, because so much was better understood compared to, at least in my opinion, compared to the previous forum, in actually seeing what the mayors were talking about. And, you know, it really puts the context, and I really hope that this we can keep in the future, because it's helped me a lot also understanding contexts. But overall, as we also talking about decisions taken within the United Nations, like Sustainable Development Goals and our dear Geneva Declaration of Mayors, just to remind you that what we have heard about resilient, healthy, and climate neutral buildings and affordable and adequate housing is strictly linked to SDG 7, the implementation of SDG 7 energy, SDG 9 resilient infrastructure, SDG 11 on sustainable urbanization and human settlement. Just to say that perhaps today and yesterday, we really understood how a lot of the implementation and realization of the SDGs is done by you, the mayors at the local level. So you really translate the SDGs in physical spaces for people. Links to the Geneva Declaration of Mayors, of course, ambitious climate action, that is in all the presentations we have seen. Accelerating the transition to carbon neutrality by promoting the use of renewable energy and increasing energy efficiency and low carbon alternatives, especially in housing. And the transition to sustainable energy to promote high performance buildings with no or low carbon energy sources to reduce the carbon footprint of cities, but also strengthening cities' resilience, allocating funds for contingency plans and using smart city solutions, and also inclusive cities. Many of you have referred to that. So build inclusive cities which guarantee equal rights and participation of all. Essential elements, again, resilient buildings, equipped for withstanding extreme weather conditions, but also housing affordability, adequate living space, smart solutions for making buildings fit for purpose, and again, energy efficiency. And last but not least, the links with city planning and with COVID-specific measures. City planning is essential also very much when we talk about sustainable housing. Residential and non-residential buildings should be in line and respect cultural values, but also be part of the overall city structures and neighbor. And we will hear about these linkages in our last session. But also flexible building designs for multiple
purpose use. And as far as COVID is concerned, I think nobody will ever question the link of between the COVID pandemic and the importance of having safe housing, affordable housing, and also the need now to invest more in this direction. This is all from me. That you will see it, that will appear before everybody else has spoken, but I thought it was important to give some context. Thank you so much.
So thank you to the co-moderators for moderating this session, and thank you to Paula, and apologies for not giving you the floor in the beginning for setting the scene, but it was a bit emotional, the starting of that session. Now I would like to remind you that there is a side event, SDG Voluntary Local Reviews in the UNEC region, Experiences and Good Practices, that is taking place in Age Building, room 207-209, and it starts at 13:15. So there is a bit of, there is some time to refresh and then to join in this side event. So thank you. Thank you.